Actually, I need to have a wooden head so it's easier to reach. But, let me call the City Commission
Recording
meeting,
in progress.
the City Commission meeting of July 22nd to order. I'm going to request that the city clerk call the roll.
Mayor Weissman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Evans,
Present.
Commissioner Friedland,
Present.
Commissioner Landman,
Here.
Commissioner Narotsky,
Present.
Commissioner Shelley,
Here.
Mr. Wasson,
Here.
and Mr. Wolfen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We are honored to have our Senator, Senator Jason Pizzo here today. So with agreement from the commission, I am going to place item number 4, ordinance first reading, first on the agenda, right after we do our Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask both the city manager and our assistant city manager, Brian Reducci, to come up and introduce our 2 student interns who will lead us in the pledge.
Mayor, I'll be happy to do that. Carolina Wexley, if you could come down, and Morgan Maglaga. I'm sorry, I have trouble with that one.
Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Attorney, I can go back and do all the minutes and everything later. We can still take this out of order. Thank you very much. Then, at this point in time, I'm going to, and it's page 3 of 5, if you have the complete agenda, I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Mayor, first reading of an ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Article 1 in general of Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations of the City Code to require the delivery to the city of building engineering reports which reflect building conditions, including structural and life safety components, providing for severability, providing for penalty, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
In consultation with the city attorney, I am going to be the maker of this motion. So I'm making a motion to approve this ordinance, but I do need a second. Seconded by Commissioner Friedland. You know, at our last meeting, we took a moment of silence for the tragedy that had taken place in Surfside. And as you know, there are dozens of task force, there are engineering groups, all kinds of people are looking at not only the problems there, but opportunities to improve our processes. So in doing a great deal of thinking about it, and it's important that Senator Pizzo is here because he's been championing this in Tallahassee for 3 years. But those of you that know me know that being proactive means we don't wait for the county, we don't wait for Tallahassee because government is cumbersome. Democracy takes time. But we have the ability here, right here and now, to provide a great deal of comfort. And it's important to understand that almost everybody living in our community, living in Bal Harbor, living in Bay Harbor, anyone living in condos right now, there's an element of fear. And one of the constant comments we hear all the time is that residents, even though it is the law, residents don't get the reports that they asked for. You know, we really benefited when Commissioner Weinberg was on the commission because he was almost our liaison to condo legislation in Tallahassee, and on more than one occasion, he went up there, and because our eye was on the target, we were able to do some things that would not have been done without that. So what I'm trying to do here, and I know you all have it in the backup, is that anytime, not a 40-year, anytime a building gets a structural engineering or electrical report, And this was written in collaboration with the city attorney and the city manager. It was rewritten, it was re-edited, going late until last night. But that every condo receiving that report, irrespective of their age, has a 24-hour time limit to turn the report in by electronic mail or in writing to the city manager and the building department. And that is really what this says. Let me ask first if the city manager wants to add anything to it.
Mayor, I think you really hit the high points, and,
Okay.
not
And
much to add.
after we have the discussion, should this pass, I want you to understand that this will reduce our labor costs. It's electronic and it would be uploaded right to a platform. And upon the passage, I will be directing the superintendent. This is a first reading, so it comes back to us September 2nd. It comes back to us September 2nd for second reading. By September 2nd, am requesting that the city manager have operational by September 2nd, the system where we have a tab and every condo is listed. And very easily, you can click on your condo and see if there are any safety to life, structural engineering, and electrical reports. And I have been assured that that will not be a problem. So with this said, let me open this for any commissioners who want to weigh in on it. Commissioner Evans.
I think this is excellent. There's a lot of anxiety out there amongst residents for obvious reasons recently, but in general, I think it's expanded. People are worried about almost everything in their building. And so to have a central resource that they can rely on, I think is essential and is very good for the city as a whole. I really applaud this. Thank you.
Commissioner Friedland.
I would like to see if it's possible to make a special meeting that we could vote on it for second reading before September.
It's a serious issue. Again, we don't have the answers, and we get our news, I guess sometimes through iffy channels, even the Miami Herald. But if what we read is correct, Surfside got a report maybe 48 hours prior to a building collapsing. I think our city, because we've been so vigilant since that collapse, I don't think we have any problem, but I'd have to ask the city manager, do you want to poll the commission? I don't have a problem with it.
If the commission would like to have a second, a special meeting to approve that,
And Mr. Attorney, what would be the date that we'd be able to do that? A single item special meeting?
The city clerk would coordinate with the advertising. The Herald has to publish notice before a second reading, and that publication would have to appear 10 days before the actual meeting, so therefore it would be time for placement of the ad and time for the appearance of the ad. So that would have to be calculated.
So it looks to me, and when we talk about this, are we talking about working days or weekends when you say 10 days?
When it appears in the paper, it's 10 calendar days.
10 calendar days. That
It
would,
takes time to place the ad. The Herald needs a certain lead time.
so the absolute soonest we could do this would be August 2nd, probably much more likely August 5th, because it does take time to place the
It
ad.
takes time. It could even be more towards the middle of the month
Okay.
of August.
Miss City Clerk, you have the experience with it. How long does it usually
I
take
would
to?
say starting with August, anytime August 9th and after.
August 9th and after. Okay. I'll be very clear. I'll be able to join by Zoom, but I will not be here August 9th. But it's fine with me to have the meeting, and I'll participate by Zoom. What is the rest of your pleasure?
I agree, same.
Okay, so we are saying this, Dr. Marks, we're saying this merits a special meeting because it's a safety to life issue.
I'm fine with that. I have some comments, but I'm fine with whatever date is selected.
And I'm looking up at, I don't see hands raised. Okay, are you, okay from Bob? I got a thumbs up and a thumbs up from Denise. Okay, so,
I just think it's a very important issue, and I'd like it to be moved ahead as quickly as possible for all our residents to know that if there's a structural report, we will know about it within 24 hours. Our city may or may not be able to have the means to look at it within 24 hours that we need by August. I can understand if we give them till September, but I think we should move this along as fast as we can.
We'll work to get it done.
I will humbly ask that it's technology, and it's not, this kind is not rocket science, that we have it meet the, when this is approved. There's no reason to drag it out further. It's a very proactive statement that our city is making to really ensure the safety. And I'm going to say this, it's less about the safety for me than the peace of mind. Okay, when you have been in meetings that Senator Pizzo and I have been in, and there are 50 people sitting right in our chambers 3 years ago, and they are in tears because they go to the, and I will say, it's not any of the condos that the people on this board live in, all right? But when a resident goes to a condo repeatedly, and asks to see a copy of a report, and they're told, I can't find it. It's in a box. You know, you go find it. Number one, they're in violation of the law. But this is something that's so easy with technology today, just being able to post it. And when I queried the city manager and our development director, again, we're not talking about 40-year. We're talking any time a building gets a structural engineering report. We've got approximately 250 condos. We have less than 20 structural reports in any given year. So this is not an undue burden on anyone, but then it allows us to post it and anyone would be able to see it. Let me open it then to anyone on the commission, and I know Dr. Marks would like to talk.
Okay.
And Mayor, when she's done, I would like to.
You're next.
Thank you.
Okay. First of all, 100% the city needs to receive this information, and it needs to be made public. However, there are some inherent issues, and I will speak from the perspective of serving on a board for many years and serving as the chair of the Aventura Condo Board Association, which represents, where all condo boards meet. So just going through the items, item 14.1A.
Can you give a page?
Yes, well, it's on page 204. This is just defining who will be responsible, and it speaks to the fact that the responsible person for making the report will be the president of the condominium or the property manager, or the property manager, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I want to speak to the concept of property manager versus board chair, board president. The property manager is a paid position, and this is someone who is trained in the area of managing properties, reporting, understanding engineer reports, understanding other reports, understanding mechanicals, et cetera, et cetera. A board chair is someone who is a volunteer, a resident of the building, and that person may have zero experience in engineering, in requirements, in understanding building operations, et cetera. But this particular, the way it's written, this places as much burden, and David, I want you to, I'm speaking kind of to you, meaning this obviously affects the language. The way it is currently written, as much burden is placed on the board chair as is placed on the property manager. And I will say, and I would ask our city manager, there are probably a very small number of buildings, condo associations, where residents have this difficulty in getting reports, whatever, and probably a decent amount. I don't think it's even 50-50, Enid, but whatever, it doesn't matter, because here's the issue. No one in their right mind would want to be a board chair if they're understanding that they are going to be liable for this report that they may not have even known about or gotten. I know it says, no, I know what it says. I know it says that they have to.
If I can, I think you're missing the point. No one has to do anything. All they have to do is upload the report. And
But it
originally, wait a minute, originally what the attorney had written was any board member, any this, any that. And in my life, when everyone has a responsibility, no one has the responsibility. Some of our buildings are self-managed. Some of our buildings have the majority of their board members do not live here. They're someplace.
Including their presidents.
And that could be. That's why the attorney felt it was important that we designate two entities. It could be the secretary in the office. It's only, you're not doing anything with the report, but uploading. So
if you
go
let
ahead.
me finish, I think I have an answer to this.
Okay.
But I'd like to finish. It is hard enough to get good board members. It's harder than to get good board officers. And anyone who is really efficient and good and proficient and maybe also holds, an important work position or important whatever, with these kinds of things sitting in the back of your mind, it could lead those people to not want to serve in the chair position, okay? I am going to, again, and we need the best board chairs we can get. We need the best board members that we can get. We don't want these special interest individuals who get on a board for all the wrong reasons to be the people who are now, running the show because the other people don't want to touch this responsibility. So I would propose, and again, and I have some other things that I want to talk about, but I would propose a way around this because the concept is critical and has to happen, that the responsibility becomes on any engineer who is brought into. If you're hiring an engineer, it better be somebody who's a certified engineer, right? We're not going to hire somebody who says I'm an engineer, but they don't have a license or whatever. Number one, the responsibility should be on that engineer as well as the property to file the report. And
Dr. Marks,
wait, let me finish. Let me.
It goes along with what you're saying that wouldn't be an easy solution. Why don't we just have, every building has a building engineer. Why don't we have the presidents appoint someone who is responsible for this job? And it should be, because building managers in many cases are no better than the president. However,
Correct.
The building engineer would be qualified. So if we say the president has to assign or appoint somebody qualified for this job, I think that may solve this problem.
Exactly, that was one solution. The other, Bob, that I was going to bring up, and the building engineer is a perfect one because they are going to know if there's an engineer on premises. The other one was just use a term that was more broad. The building must report within. But I'm fine with the building engineer. But putting the president in that responsibility we are going to lose very good presidents.
Well, they're not qualified. You're right.
Okay, right. Now, but there's another thing I want to talk about.
Well, can we get, as we move through this, we're going to be making changes, so can we get anybody to weigh in? I will be very clear on this. It matters not to me who does it. What I don't want happening in any board is saying, oh, I thought you were doing it, I thought you were doing it. I think there has to be real clarity as to who the person is.
Bob's suggestion is the most sensible.
Yeah, we heard it, but there are other suggestions that are out there. On this item, is there anything that another commissioner would like to say? Okay, so I think what I hear is consensus that we will reword the responsible party, but we will make it very specific. Okay?
And it would be, are we including the property manager? Should there be one on site? Property manager and or?
I'm going to tell you what is
and
it's my own feeling.
If we say a qualified representative, I think that should cover.
That answers it. You're right.
About.
You're right.
Yes.
I'm going to say honestly, spent a long time with this. You can wordsmith it and pick it to death. It's the intent, and this is what stops so much of what our senator's been trying to do for 3 years. And maybe if he had been a little more successful and there was a little less pushback, we wouldn't have the situations that we have. In reality, in a place as big as either of yours, the person uploading the engineer's report is probably going to be clerical. But somebody has to have the responsibility of making sure that it gets uploaded. And it doesn't matter to me who that person is.
Okay.
Okay,
So
at
then
all.
going on,
I think Commissioner Friedland had a question.
I was going to just say, I mean, we're not talking about this person being a qualified engineer. We're just talking about it being uploaded. That's not so difficult, but we do need to announce all our buildings. I do understand what Dr. Marks is saying. Nobody wants to be the president and be the responsible party. I get that, but we're just like blame shifting, and
no, we're not.
the mayor's worried that it will not get done if someone else says somebody else
Well,
is responsible.
Okay, but Rachel, Section 3, under penalty, clearly states, a violation of this ordinance shall be subject to the penalties provided in Section 1-14 of the City Code. So now we are saying, when you're identifying board chair, you are saying they're subject to these penalties. Now, respectfully, we weren't given 1-14, so I don't know what the penalties are. So I would like to ask the city manager, the city attorney, what
We
are
have
they?
the ability to fine from $100 to $500 on a daily basis.
Okay,
And if it's ever determined that the building is unsafe in a structural report, that it's unsafe for habitation, there is a process that involves the county, and our city manager will go over that process.
Mayor, if I just could just back up a second. I know with the building engineer, I'm not sure if every building has a building engineer. I serve on a board of my own, and I can say when an engineer's report is done, it's not done without the knowledge of the board voting for it. So I would just say that adding a building engineer into the number of people who should be handing in this report, I would look at it that way. As far as if there is an unsafe report that's now turned over to, any report that's turned over to us, it would be reviewed by our building department, and judging on what the report said, it would require a visit from a building department, probably a structural engineer or somebody like that. And it's really, the whole thing is designed to catch something from falling between the cracks. So somebody that takes a report and puts it in a drawer because they say, well, you know what, maybe it is the next board president that comes in and ditches it. It's the responsibility for the board to turn it over to the city, and then we go from there. If they don't take care of the situation, then we have ways of enforcing that, anywhere from fines right up to unsafe structure boards with the county, and then, they would take really drastic action, similar to almost, telling everybody they have to leave the building until it's fixed.
If I may,
things I
if
guess
the
I'm not-
commission desires, a provision may be added to this that the president of the association may designate a qualified employee of the association to deliver and provide the report to the city, so long as that designation is made in writing and filed with the city.
Madam Mayor?
Exactly. Perfect.
that's fine.
I think the simplest way of doing this is for the engineer of each building to discuss with the building manager the engineer's report and then send it to the city. They would report to the board as to what happened in the engineer's report, but it would be an employee of the building that would be doing this.
Mayor, if I may, Mayor, Jonathan, I hear what you're saying, but unfortunately, the way the politics of the buildings work, I think if you have as David said, if the president appoints a qualified person, such as the engineer,
Right.
or the building manager,
Right.
you've accomplished exactly what you're
Yes,
trying
you
to
have.
do. That way, the president is aware of what's going on.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, what you're saying is a building manager or engineer could take it upon himself to do something without the building even knowing he's doing it. So I think for the
Right.
building's sake,
Okay.
they need the connection and communication. So I think by having the president appoint a qualified person, such as the building engineer or whomever they have, we've accomplished the communication within the building, and we get what we need.
I was assuming that, sorry.
No, I have like I said, I have no attachment to who. I think it needs to be finite. But remember, when you run for leadership roles, this is not all this is taking a report and uploading it. It's not evaluating it. It's not anything for this meant from this. What happens when the city gets it is a whole other conversation for probably in the fall when we think of things that we want to add. This is merely uploading a report. So I think if we can keep it simple, and like I said, I don't care. You want it to be somebody else, it's fine. Have it be anybody you want. I think that the city attorney is listening to it. Yes, you may.
Okay. All right. I just want to finish because this is part of the whole thing. Concurrently, I found nothing in this document that held the city responsible.
We're not.
And wait, how long is it going to be before they take action? How long is it going to be before they're going to do something? And I wanted to understand why, in writing, we also did not identify that piece. So
Okay.
that's the next question.
I think I can answer a little bit. Right now, no one wants to take undue liabilities. The attorney and I spent an inordinate amount of time. Sometimes not throwing everything into an ordinance and a change, and you can always go back and look at it, but the city manager explained to you, upon receipt of these documents, the department that is under Kevin Klopp and maybe even involving Joe Kroll, they will read it within, if it's not a Saturday or Sunday or even then, because it will be uploaded, they will immediately look at the reports, and if there's something in the engineer's analysis that warrants further inspection, he said they will directly go themselves and visit the structure and then see where it needs to go.
So why can't we put that in writing?
Mayor, if I could address that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the purpose of this ordinance and most ordinances for the city as the city commission, as the legislative body, to make laws that govern the conduct of other people. As far as the city's internal operations, that's handled internally by the city manager. And no city does a better job in administering and executing the laws of the commission.
So then it would be appropriate for us to ask for a written report on what their policy or procedures are.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. All right, now let me just ask the city manager one other question. I know that in the past, this city has also worked to be very, very kind to some of the buildings who are experiencing issues and might not have the money to be able to fix those issues. And they've been given a bit more latitude than maybe we might give now, knowing what we know. How does the city address, since you have, there's this developed philosophy here where people know if they come to the city and say, look, we can't afford it now, we need an extra year, we need an extra 2 years. What is the shift going to look like, Ron, in terms of,
There's two issues. One, once you deal with life safety, there really is no shifting off to, I don't have enough money, my building has structural issues. There is no shifting off of that. If it's just a mere building that has restorative concrete work that has to be done, I can think of a few that have worked, through a different board change, a different vote, a contractor change, a different bidding process. As long as it didn't affect life safety, usually the building department would work with them. And we understand that this isn't we're not getting a runaround. If it's an honest, we feel like people are working towards that end, that's fine. Life safety is a whole different animal, and if there is a danger to the building, it's not going to be shifted off and said, I need another year. That's not something we would do or advocate for, and it's just not going to happen.
Okay, and what about retroactivity here with this particular document?
In letter C, it says, if we were to become aware of, this is going, this document really addresses going forward, and if for some reason the building department became aware of hey, there was a structural report done on this building for whatever reason, it would give us the right to go and ask for that report and be provided to us. And again, that's to prevent somebody from ditching a report that maybe was some bad news and that we wouldn't know about it. So it gives us the ability to go back, and somebody can't tell us, well, it's not the 40-year or 50-year certification, which they have to turn over to us now. But this could be a building that's 15 years old that's having an issue with the pool. Maybe it's affecting the way it's, the garage scenario. We could go in and say, hey, I'd like to see that report. But normally people complain about something before it gets to that, into us. But that's what that is designed. It's not to go in and say, everybody, I want every report that was ever done. No, it's not. That's not what it's for. We're looking forward. All our buildings have been inspected already from the building department structurally and gone through. We have a lot of buildings that now are working very
Diligently.
Yes, to get underway. I mean, we've had a few that are taking a long time. They've changed the contractor, they have done this and that, but they have been actively working on this situation. I could name it too, on garage situations, but they're right now, they're working on it very seriously.
So my issue with item C is that, so if somebody happens to call you, then you're going to ask for the report. And if somebody doesn't happen to call you, then you're not going to ask for this prior report. I think that's what you said, right, Ron?
It has to be, any structural engineering or electrical report has to be turned in to the city manager / building department within 24 hours.
Oh, these are the prior ones.
Not,
That's item C he's referring to.
right, but in prior, I'm hopeful we get to do some of our own determination, because as the senator will say, there's going to be lots of legislation coming out of Tallahassee. We're going to have to meet on this issue. In no way is this addressing every issue with condos. It's just one simple part of information. Many, again, we have a perception. There are buildings that don't have engineers. There are buildings that don't have email distribution centers. There are buildings that file the reports in boxes and tell their residents, well, there are the boxes, go find what you want. So again, I don't ever want this to be a burden, because not all buildings have the same resources. It would be great if we could get the past 5 years reports, but what my item is saying is, at least from now on, let's go forward and get a copy of the documents we can. But I don't mind if we can get others.
Well, but this is the point. I think right now this should say from this day forward, and then this is going to have to be tweaked anyway as stuff goes on, and then we can always address something. I think this should be from this day forward, because if not, what Ron's explanation to me was, and what he said again today is exactly the same. Ron, you're consistent in what you say. That's very good.
Thank God.
Thank God. But Ron explained to me that we can go backwards, which
We can.
Yes, but we should only deal right now with this day forward, because then
And it says prior to providing for an effective date, and that is forward.
right. But so I want it clear that this is.
You got it?
Right now, the ordinance already provides, as any ordinance, when it takes effect, anyone who receives a report in the future after the effective date has to file it. Likewise, the last sentence of C requires a filing upon demand of the city. We can go to each and every building or selective buildings, and once we make a demand, the building has to dig out their old reports and send it to us within 24 hours. So that's already covered. you know.
but see, now, he's saying that they're both saying the same thing. This is all the past stuff, too. This
For
is all the-
demand, for the past, it requires a demand letter. Once this ordinance is adopted, as future reports come into the buildings, they have to deliver it within 24 hours. Those that already have reports, they don't have to deliver it to the city unless the city makes a demand for it. We can go to every building, or we can go to those that look suspicious.
Okay, but I want it clear that this is all the
Clear in
prior
ordinance
stuff.
already.
No, I understand, David, but I want everybody to know, this is saying they can go back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever,
That's
for
current- no,
what,
that's
yeah.
currently the law. There's nothing in here that
Right,
changes that.
but I'm just making that point. This is not just for this day forward. And then,
This is.
no, it's not.
Yeah, Linda.
Okay, all right.
This is what exists currently can go back to when the building was built. The change is that instead of having to do a demand letter to ask for a report, it will be the obligation the minute they receive it.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's a
okay.
significant change in going forward.
All right, and then my very last thing is the 24 hours. And I'm going to explain why. And Bob, you sit on a board. Mark, you're still on the board, right? Jonathan, you've been.
I resigned from my board several months ago,
You're
but I feel your pain.
You're very wise.
I feel your
to have done
pain.
that. I don't blame you, but, so here's the thing. A lot of times, the report will go, let's say, either to the building engineer or likely if you have a property manager, would go to the property manager. It's not going to go to the board chair. It's going to go to one of those other two people, and 9 out of 10 times. The property manager can be on vacation. The engineer can be on vacation. It could take 4, 5, 6 days until they check their email and get back. So is there some language? I mean, I don't know that you can turn this around in 24 hours if you're not physically on premises. Because my experience is when they are not working, often they are not working, meaning your paid employees kind of shut down sometimes. Not all. So my question is, again, it's operational, but if we're going to make an ordinance, I'd like it to be very workable. Is there something we could do language-wise? And Bob, maybe you can come up with something, because I'm sure you've faced the same thing.
I will tell you, I think one of the lines in our local media that probably resonated the most with me was that a neighboring city received a report. Now, they only had it for 48 hours, but they were blasted for not taking action. This is very serious business.
Absolutely.
I think, again, when you have the designated person, which is fine with me, I want it to be finite, and the city manager, upon the passage of this, has the obligation to inform, whether it's in person or any other way, every single condo and find out who that entity is in that building.
Like an education plan.
A building may not, this may be, Kevin, this may be one report every 10, we're not talking about a burden. Structural reports are not done every year.
I agree.
And I limited it.
Agree.
So anything that will make it better, and like I said, this is a first baby step. It's a baby step. And again, anything, when you start to implement, you might find out there's an issue, and, I'm very open to coming back and.
Well, I'm just wondering, is there some language that our city attorney...
He's the one who pushed for the 24 hours.
Right, but in dealing with condos, what do you do when that report has not been opened yet? Because
Once it's received, it has to be delivered within 24 hours. However, we have a space here where they could deliver it to the government center and/or by the use of the following link.
He's adding
The
it.
link will be an easy download, so it's a matter of scanning and inputting it into the city system, scanning it and sending it, computerized.
so legally, let's go with that example of the property manager's gone for the week. They're on their vacation.
They should have someone covering it, just like when an attorney goes away or another professional goes away, they have someone monitoring and covering.
Their email, you're saying they're monitoring
Correct,
their
that's
email?
right, that's correct.
That doesn't happen, okay.
And also, they know the engineer is doing work. They could say to the engineer, I'm away, I'm coming back X date. they can coordinate. It's not like they're suddenly getting a report. They know things are being studied, things are being reviewed. So we feel it's
David,
better to have this
if I
tight
may,
time frame.
Bob, 1 second.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think to solve this problem, which I think we do, and most attorneys, they do it in any agreement. Anytime there's an engineer report being requested or being done, I think all you have to do is list who the notices go to, and it should be the building manager, the president, and the engineer. And I think by doing that, all three get the notice, because an inspector's not going to come out and do it without being requested to do it. So I think by doing that in the formal request, all we have to do is have a notice provision in those requests that the president, manager, and engineer of the building are notified simultaneously. And I think that answers your concern, Linda.
Yeah,
Okay,
then one of the three can send it in.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me do this now, and I'll go back to the commission later. Let me ask Senator Pizzo if he would come up and address the commission.
Thank you, Madam.
And let me thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me. And of course, as you mentioned, this is the site where we brought the secretary down here. There's a new secretary of Department of Business and Professional Regulation, Julie Brown. She was down here last week. To Commissioner Marks, Vice Mayor Marks's point, I agree with you. We're looking legislatively to obviate this. Who's doing this? Who's doing what? Who's on first? Uniquely, in this situation, every single interested party is actually under the purview of the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. So what I mean by that is your Oscar Guerrero, I believe, is your building official. He's actually licensed under the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. The professional engineer who should be doing the inspection or investigation is licensed under DBPR as well. Your building is listed under the purview and authority of DBPR. While it's not crystal clear that we haven't been able to assess, I can assure you that the very first order of business is to make sure that the licensed professional engineer licensed under Florida, under the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, is required and mandated to report his findings, whatever they are, because it's not for anyone to determine what's innocuous and de minimis and what's substantial, to your building official, both of whom are licensed under DBPR. I agree with the sentiment that we have brain surgeons as board presidents, but they don't know anything about rebar.
Correct.
Okay? And they don't know how to spell spalling. We understand that. What I do really appreciate is that you're doing a 4-unit or more. There's always been a discussion about 150 units or more. Surely Surfside demonstrates that a 136-unit building could also have the same issues. But it is about transparency. The question I sort of wrote down to myself, also to Vice Mayor's question or statement, it's a shorter list of those documents that you would seek to exclude. What wouldn't you want scanned and uploaded?
I agree.
The overwhelming majority of complaints that we get to our office, and we get 5 to 10 daily for the past 38 months, has to do with the production of records, the transparency, and having access to records. And what our bill in the past 3 years has sought to do is take out all of the human emotion and element of it, and just take a tough love, labor-intensive, in the beginning only, measure of scanning and uploading everything for authorized use and access for residents or authorized representatives. Then there becomes no personality. It becomes like contactless living, like the QR code menus that you have at restaurants now, okay? And that takes all the emotion out of it. That is also the bulk of several hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of unnecessary legal fees that attach to people that are just asking for what might amount to a $400 dispute. They end up becoming 6-figure legal fees. If we can just say, listen, give us the short list of that which you think, whether for security or some other situation, should not be included. Everything else per se must be uploaded. Now, I have attached a criminal penalty in legislation to that because there are boards that are evasive. There are groups that have taken over the majority of a condo and use it for laundering purposes. It's the worst kept secret. So everything should be up, and you should have to state exception. I think you should assuage and obviate the sort of chilling effect of volunteer positions, to your point, Vice Mayor, about the president doesn't know what he's looking at. I mean, my biggest concern, I'll give you, I'll end with this, are for cities to get a little more teeth and a little more assurances on other sections. The Florida Statute 718-111, subsection 11, speaks to a building being reassessed and reappraised for insurance purposes every 36 months. And let me tell you why that's critical. Because down the road in North Miami Beach, you have a building that may not have been reassessed. I don't think anyone would argue that Champlain Towers was adequately assessed and appraised at what the replacement value was. And that's what we're learning now. Bittersweet, thank goodness the land is so valuable, that will fill the void. Certainly not going to do it on the $31 million policy for the shell. That is huge. And why is that huge? Because who's the next government body? I teach a bullseye method for civics. It's your home, it's your city, your county, your state, and your federal government. Who are they going to next when you have 150 residents that are all of a sudden evacuated in the middle of the night? They're going to you. The mayor of North Miami Beach posted his own GoFundMe yesterday for the residents at Crestview. But here's my biggest concern from that particular situation. There is a report, not grammatically correct, but it clearly says, and a fifth grader could understand, on the front page of a January 11th, 2021 report, electrically building unsafe for occupancy. Structurally, it says no safe, not safe. No safe for occupancy. It's dated January 11th. The city stamp says July 2nd. So I go back to DBPR having the purview and authority. Either the engineer didn't send that report in January to the building official, who's in all caps, or the building official did receive it and it sat on his desk somewhere for 7 months. But it all goes back to the same purview and authority. And to obviate any of that, a requirement that I think you have the ability and purview to do here and the authority to do is just to require anyone doing business in Aventura, as it relates to engineering, is required to report it to your building official.
And why not to the city at the same time?
Your building official, Oscar Guerrero is the building official for the city of Aventura.
Yeah, our city.
Yes.
100%.
That's it. And there's no personalities. There's
That's
no
exactly
he said,
right.
she said, I don't know what I'm looking at, go away on vacation. It's just actually a requirement of doing
That's right.
the inspection.
Senator Pizzo.
Yeah.
Don't you think we should also take a little bit of a retroactive view and ask for the reports for the last 3 to 5 years? I mean, how do we?
To that point, also made a note. The statute requires that records be kept for buildings for X amount of years. Okay, that's as retroactive as you should go back, at the very least.
But our city hasn't been receiving them.
They haven't.
Well, wait a minute, we
They
don't,
haven't been asked for.
number one, there's been no, again, South Florida has the toughest building code in the country. And Dade and Broward County are the only two counties that even have a 40-year inspection.
Correct.
Palm Beach, Sarasota, Monroe County with the water, Hillsborough, Amelia Island, Palm Beach, no one else has this requirement. We're learning. And as the senator knows, I try and make my decisions based on the data and the information that we have.
But building.
I don't have
Yeah.
any problems with everything being, however, the city departments are going to have to work with this, and if this goes very smoothly, you can be sure with some of the new software the city is looking at that you've also looked at, we think we'll be able to handle many more of the documents that are legally responsibly to be, that we have the legal, not that we, that the condo has the legal responsibility to share. And because we're the entity closest to the people, posting it is one of the easiest ways to do it. Correct, sir?
To your point, if I make a records request within a 10-day period, pursuant to Florida statute right now, and they open a large closet and they say, go ahead, which often happens, go ahead, go look.
Absolutely. They do it on purpose.
Yeah, it's like the Tom Cruise movie, The Firm. It's
They do it on
here's your
purpose.
discovery, go look for it. But anything that I would be physically able to inspect, I believe, per se, should be scanned and made available online. That includes old reports and anything that you'd be able to inspect. You were going to say something else, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think it's reasonable for us to go back 3 to 5 years and give them a 24-hour period to give us engineering records now. But I think that we should give a 10-day period and ask all of our buildings who have done an engineering report in the last 3 to 5 years prior to scan and send them. Again, I think, that closet is impossible, so give them.
Anything that we file at the very best is going to be effective upon signing by the governor. So we could, with the January and February session, hopefully a March signing by the governor, but it could be effective not until July 1st. Things that usually attach or have attendant criminal penalties are not effective until October, so they can promulgate rules to law enforcement agencies. This is something that I would expect to be somewhere in the middle. But to your point, I think going forward, prospectively, I think whatever you guys come up with, 24 hours, or I think you're obviating the 24-hour issue because to Commissioner Shelley's point, there's going to be a solicitation for this inspection and investigation anyway by one party, and that should trigger the engineer also being required and expected to copy in the response and in the production of that report to your building official. That puts the city on notice. I don't think it creates any duties or obligation, but I do think that it's a necessary party. But to your point, which I think is good, I think there needs to be a reasonable amount of time, and I think we're going to come up with a triage or a schedule of that which needs to be scanned and uploaded first. Things that are structural, things that are financial will probably go before things that are, I'll give you an example. It was a harrowing experience being in the clerk's office in Surfside a few weeks ago and seeing stacks of plans and papers and files that were not to the fault of the existing clerk or the assistant clerk, who were equally upset. But when media came in and asked for public records requests on building plans and permits and inspections, it was just this massive pile. And you pull a folder and it's a 2013 building permit that's, pulled for a kitchen renovation that's mixed in with a 1981 site inspection of when the building was under construction. It's going to be labor intensive. We need to be considerate of that. There are economic, hardships and all that stuff. But when the secretary sat here 3 years ago, and everybody was, if you recall, I think we had 70 people lining up here from Boca Raton all the way down to Homestead. Their request was, or the biggest gripe was, not having availability or production of records or being able to see it. The secretary said then, and the state will agree now, that there should be no challenge or contestation of any of this based on economic hardship. Meaning they will host in the cloud or on state servers any and all information. The way that they have mobile shredding trucks come up to pick up large bulk and office stuff, we can make the same thing available for scanning purposes. No one should tell you we can't afford it, because we certainly can't afford the worst case scenario in any of these. So, thank you.
I'm looking. Commission? I'm not ready yet. Sorry. Anybody else on the commission? Okay, then I'm going to open it to public comment. Please state your name, address for the record.
My name is Stephen Wiseman. I live at 3802 Northeast 207th Street, apartment 603.
You have 3 minutes.
Two things in terms of some of the verbiage that you want to use. If you're going to refer to the building engineer anywhere in your language, you should put in parentheses, head of maintenance, because I can tell you there's a lot of confusion in general between the building engineer and a licensed engineer who we think of as an engineer. Secondly, if you're going to set up a fine, set the fine for the association, not for the president, but the association pays the fine. That's all I have.
Okay, and let me ask, the attorney and the city clerk are taking the notes on getting these. And I think, Ron, I think that the fine is already, this is nothing new. This is not a new thing that we're asking to be able to do. We already have a fine schedule.
Yes.
And it is the association that is fined, isn't it? I don't know, who's fined?
Yes, we go after the building.
It's not a person, it's the association. So let's make sure that's clear in this item.
Yeah, in this
Right, in this one. Let's make sure that's clear in this item. I see a hand in the public from former Commissioner Howard Weinberg. Please state your name and address.
Howard Weinberg, Hidden Bay Condominium. First, thank you, Mayor, for recognizing my efforts on behalf of condominium unit owners. I want to applaud you all. This is so important, and at some point it may be superseded by county ordinance, it may be superseded by things coming out of Tallahassee, but keeping in mind that Aventura is the flagship all condominium municipality in Florida, taking a leadership role is so important, not just for life safety, but symbolically. Other cities will follow suit. It's very, very, very important. Now, just to the point that's being discussed, that Dr. Linda Marks concerns and others, I would agree with Senator Pizzo, and I think it's a natural. Whoever is conducting, whichever engineer is hired to conduct the inspection, should be instructed by the board who hires him, copy the Aventura building official with your report. Now, it should be a requirement anyway, because what happens is the people you hire, there's a finite number of people who hire, just like general contractors who work in Aventura, they know how our building department works. They're great at pulling permits. They know the system. They will know when working in Aventura, you always copy the building official on your report. And there's a thing called chain of custody in evidence. It's better to get the report directly from the person who wrote it. Why does it have to go first to the association and then to the city? And then people think, maybe page 18 is missing for a reason. You know, the point is, let the person creating the report send it directly. There's no reason why it's not going to be redacted in any way or edited in any way by the association. So send it directly. You'll never have a problem. This is a wonderful start. Of course, it's going to be tweaked, but I applaud you all. I applaud you, Mayor, for bringing this proposal forward. Very important, and it's great that Aventura is taking the lead. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address Senator Pizzo?
And this is probably from many years as being a prosecutor with Maggie here. I want to be clear about something. We're going to find out that there were a lot of engineering reports and different things performed that ended up being for your eyes only for a board, and some nefarious things followed. They sold their units, they got out. There is, and principally you would think that there is an inherent dynamic that we all try to protect our greatest asset, which is our home, and that the incentive to do so, even on a voluntary basis, is to meet a fiduciary obligation, because it's in your own best interest as well as others, and therefore that's the collective good. That is not always the case. And it's really important, whether it's a production of records, to the Vice Mayor's point, or the timing, all that, to take the human element out of it. I appreciate what Commissioner Weinberg's point as to, you should know when you come into this town, things are different and there should be certain requirements. And I mean this as no offense, because I know that this is a condo district. I don't want to have to rely, trust, or depend on any human being that's not licensed that I can't go and pull, that I can't go and subpoena and have to answer for, and that their livelihood and their profession is on the line. That's the only hook. Those are the only parties that you should be able to rely and depend on, because everybody else can throw their hands up and say, I am not in a position of public trust. I am not a public servant for ethical and for certain prohibitions. That's the truth. That's the bane of the existence for the Miami-Dade grand jury report, is a bunch of activity that gets to go on that sits in the void in the gray area between, criminal and unethical. And it's very gray. So all I would say is try to focus if you can, because that's what the legislation that's going to come down is. It's going to be trying to be dispassionate and just be about professionals and their responsibilities, because it is under the purview. It is a licensed thing. I'm not telling you what to do with a single-family detached home. Nobody should. But I will tell you that most of my colleagues on either side of the aisle, in either chamber, still associate and still grant great property rights and great deference to owners, and not to interfere with your use and enjoyment, going to great lengths to do so. Okay, this past session, you remember that we were literally debating things like cottage food industries in people's homes, because one of the speaker's friends makes cake pops for Starbucks and wants a 4 a.m. delivery from the bakery at her home. And also local businesses. The way you read the statute, I can open up a nail salon out in front of my house, and you can't say anything about it. So I just want to be very clear that there's great deference to property owners, and allowing that responsibility can also be at the detriment of other residents. I'm going to say this again. We're going to find out about reports that were sitting on people's desks that never made it because anyone and everyone, especially unsophisticated parties, were unsure who had a duty, who had an obligation to report it, and they went and sold their units. It's almost like insider trading. Mm-hmm. Take the people out of it. Take the volunteers out of it so people can have the use and enjoyment and not have those responsibilities. Put it on the professionals. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I say one more thing?
Yes. Dr. Marks.
And Senator Pizzo, I think the other part of this is going to be, there will be reports that come through that are erroneous, okay? Not all engineers always are perfect in their assessment. And there will be times when the city is going to receive something that could show an issue where your engineer, your building engineer, the people who are in the know, so to speak, say, wait a minute, we need to get a second opinion because we're not sure. And that's going to happen, and there's going to have to be a way this balancing act is going to have to occur, because there will be times when a second opinion may show something else, and that's going to require additional work. So I think we also have to be aware of that.
Okay, I'm not seeing,
Mayor?
Yes,
just
sir.
One question, point of
Commissioner
information.
Shelley.
Yeah, just real quickly. I know you're not going to be in town for the next second reading of this. I won't be. I don't know who else will. Can we just make it a Zoom call, because it's a one-item meeting and it might be more convenient for all the commissioners as well. But I'm just thinking this way, you don't have to do a hybrid, because I'm not going to be. So I'm just saying, for clarification, if we just make that a Zoom call, it may be more convenient for all the commissioners.
Okay, the attorney just told me we have to have a physical quorum by law.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I am sure we will have that.
Well, just on that point, though, I'm also not going to be here in August, so that's 3 of us down already.
Well, the rest of you, we're counting on you. Right? Let me hear, because again, we'll change the date. Do any of the Denise, any problems?
Mayor, I'm out of town until the 9th, so it has to be
After the 9th
which
of
I
August.
believe that was the date that was mentioned.
What
so
the
I'm
city
okay with
clerk said is the 9th was the first date it could happen.
Fine.
So
as
she
long
can
as
make
it's
it the
9
10th.
Yeah.
Mayor, if you do it the following week, I'm in town and I can attend.
We understand, but there was an urgency to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I don't really, I don't care. I just think the sooner we do something and get a start to be able to show our residents that we're being proactive about this and that we do care about their safety and their welfare. It's only my opinion. I think the better that it would be. And I'm looking, I don't see hands here. We've had public comment. So we have a few changes that I think the attorney has captured.
Right.
So I'm going to ask the city clerk, if there are no other comments, I'm going to ask the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
And this is as amended, right?
Yes.
Yes, my answer is yes.
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
The motion passes. Mayor, did you want to, before we move on, to schedule the next reading, when you want to have that, the date and the time?
At your pleasure. Do you have a date to proffer to us?
I think Commissioner Landman had mentioned the 10th might be better for her.
The 10th?
Yes.
Let everybody look at their calendars. It's a Tuesday.
Would this be in the morning?
I can't do.
No. Can it be at 6 p.m.?
Later in the day, is it?
Yes. I can't do during the workday.
We have a city commission workshop scheduled. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at July. Wait, no.
Later in the day on the 10th is fine for me.
Well, commission meetings are usually at 6 p.m. So it's a
right.
one-item commission meeting. It will have Zoom capabilities. And
6 p.m. on the 10th is okay with me.
Okay, fine. So I think we have consensus and we have the date for you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I think, again, I want to thank Senator Pizzo. I don't want to thank him, for coming today, although I do thank him for that. What I want to thank him for is being, and he hates when I do this, being a tireless advocate for those that have no one else to advocate for them. And it would be very remiss of me not to mention Maggie Gerson, who works close to 24 hours a day facilitating all of the requests that are made by the constituents in Senate District 38. We are so fortunate to have you both, And I thank you for taking time out of your day. Okay, now, with that said, we're going to item 2 of the city commission meeting. And this item is an overview and review of proposed budget. So I'm just going to say, this is a budget for a whole year. And if history works as usual, we'll probably spend less time on this. So, time is ours. Time is ours. I'm watching the clock, but this is our budget. And just as a preface to it, I sincerely want to thank our Chief Financial Officer, Brian Reducci, and I want to thank the city manager. Like it, not like it, have issues with it, they have done what this board commission instructed them to do, and that was to bring us a balanced budget without impacting any of our reserves or money set aside. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over for review to the city manager.
Mayor, if I can incorporate that into my,
Yep.
I was going to say, and if anybody has any questions, I'll. I also would like to say that a lot of work goes into this, and you kind of, as a city manager, you kind of get into a thing where you go from meeting to meeting, and your whole, what you do is like your next workshop or your next commission meeting. This process seems to come around faster and faster for me. It's been 20 years I'm doing this, and this is the third time for me here in Aventura. I'll start off with the highlights. It's a balanced budget. We are not touching any reserves. The millage rate is exactly the same as it's been for the last 27 years. We're keeping all city functions, planning, programming, and the way we expect our city to look and operate the same. We have made some adjustments to the budget in a couple of places, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But as I've said, and I thank you for recognizing Brian, this is really a lot of work and effort, and I know after today he's going to be a very happy guy, hopefully. When I started to write this, my notes, and I look back at last year, and we were talking about the pandemic, and I have in my notes that we were starting to come out of it, and there was a little bit positive there. And then recently, you see, we're starting to get other things with COVID. So when I give you my presentation, you'll know that this is weighing in my mind. It's hard to believe we're still talking about it. This year, pandemic has led, obviously to the shutdown of all sections of the economy. We're rebuilding. It definitely affected our real estate. As you see, this is the fourth year we've actually seen our property values go down, particularly with real estate. There is a little bit of a silver lining there. Last year, we were down 1.5%, and that was with about $92 million of new construction to kind of balance that out. We had already budgeted conservatively for a 3% reduction, so we were happy there. This year, we only have little less than 1% reduction in property values, but I'll throw in that we only had $12 million of new construction hit the books. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of new construction out there and in progress. Another little silver lining, but in truth, our price is really kind of was stable. We're getting more stable. Anecdotally, I hear from different condo buildings and developments, and I get that word that things are they're seeing better prices and pressure for their condominiums. When we put this budget together, we look at our revenues. We're still not back to where we were back in 2019. However, I'd like to also say that we are seeing a lot of positive movement in an area, and going forward, we're going to continue to remain conservative in our projections for those revenues, but they are coming up a lot nicer than we expected. But now is not the time to take any risks, especially with the way the world is today. Our plan of action, as I said, we start the year off when we do this, we knock off 3% of our property value, and we work backwards from there. We try to hold all our spending in all our departments the same as last year, with the exceptions of people who need different things to do their jobs, some material costs, some contractual obligations that go up, in those areas, you'll see a little bit of an adjustment upward, and I'll talk about that as I go through it. Bottom line, all our directors and all our employees know we're being conservative, and we're going to stay that way. As we go along, most of our, we go with if we need to replace it, we'll replace it, but we're not going to replace it just because it says so on the schedule. So we replace it as we go through. The overall priorities of this budget is to maintain all services and programming, and you will see that in this budget. Last year was an odd year. It was COVID year. All of our program, a lot of it got knocked out. So that's back, that's back in the budget. Not that it came out, but it's in the budget, and we expect to fulfill those programs and special events that we do in the city. The other thing that we really feel important about, and we discussed at the capital improvement plan meeting, budget, is infrastructure maintenance. I really think, I'm a firm believer that that's what makes Aventura really special when you pull into the city. The roads are nice, the streets are clean, there's great landscaping, there's things to do here. There's a lot of things in Aventura to be very proud about, but infrastructure is one of them. Recently, we just finished up a big job on 199th Street and Country Club Drive. Since I've been here, it has been a flooding nightmare, and a lot of complaints from the Bona Vista and the CVS and Kosher Kingdom area. Since that's been completed, basically flooding has been non-existent over there, which is really a big improvement. Those are the kind of things that you're going to see in this budget to keep us in that upward trajectory. I have to mention, there is a lot of funds out there, and you might hear that we're going to get money from the federal government, the Recovery Act, and there's a lot of different things. Nowhere in this budget do we put in this that we have those kind of funds in here. If we get them, and I do expect that we will get them, it will be found money and not money that we're planning on or putting in this budget to balance. As I said before, on a positive note on construction, certainly there is a lot to be, very positive for us. We are still a place to be. The 1212 building is still under construction. The medical district is clearly under development. The Esplanade, the second half or the other side of the mall is full out, and we expect that early, next year to go. Safford Bank is getting ready to start construction. The Hilton Hotel has been completed. Unfortunately, they don't go on the books till next year. And you just saw the Aventura Corporate Center. Huge investment, in the city, and people still want to come here. Development. We have a lot of things going on, which is good. Condo market, you will see, and I think the mayor mentioned it, that in September we will have a workshop where we are going to look at setting ourselves up for the next phase of Aventura, and that would be redevelopment and really targeting redevelopment on the residential side. We have a lot of commercial development that's always good, but we'd like to see that also transfer over into the condo or the older condo market. By taking some steps, I think we can really set us up for that next phase of the city. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is incumbent to do the easy things that we can do to make that happen, and we'll be coming to you all in September with those plans. We're proposing a millage, as I said, 1.7261. I should have that memorized by now. The total, some notable financial impacts, and I always like to lead with this. In Florida Power and Light a couple of years ago, we transitioned to a new franchise agreement, and it meant that we lost $600,000 of funding. Now, we could have asked Florida Power and Light to front us the money. It would have been convenient. We took the decision, and you backed it up, that we were going to tighten our belt, suck it up, and live with that throughout the year. And I think it still pays us dividends. The franchise agreement has been really helpful to us, where we've seen a significant impact and upward trajectory of those revenues, and it's helped us balance out. Our operating costs have gone up a little bit, and a lot of that has to do with some personnel. And I'll speak to a little bit about, we added a few people in the building department. On our private provider CAPS, who does our building reviews and we oversee them, they've added another inspector and another administrative assistant to help catch us up on some work that was lagging. We're going to see that happen, and it'll go a lot to, some of the things we were just talking about earlier. We also took a part-time code officer and made them a full-time code officer, in addition to helping the code officer. As Brian says, we took a half person and made him a full person. We only had one person really in code, so now we had 1.5, now we'll have 2. And if there's ever a transition, we'll be set over there. The new person, Patrick Prendergast. He's been working as a part-timer with us since last November. Usually, we have him hunting around on the weekends for stuff, grabbing signs and whatnot. We added an employee to Public Works at the request of Joe Kroll, and we definitely saw an impact on having a trades worker in the building, because we do rely on a lot of contractual things to do in the building: electric, air conditioning, just general building maintenance things. We lowered the cost or the amount of times we call those people because I have those people here on site. And, when you're in a building and you need something fixed, like if we had a blowout in our bathroom, it's very nice not to have to wait for somebody to tell you, I'll be there next week. We start rocking and rolling. If you've been up to the manager's office, the new conference room that was all done in-house, basically, I don't want to say for nothing, but it was, very well. And I never want to take a chance at the school being told the air conditioning guy will be there in a couple of days, because you can't operate a facility like that. So having this additional person will make us even stronger. We also were able to reflect a reduction in costs in the budget, so it kind of balanced it out. So while we're adding that person, I'm taking away the costs from somewhere else to make it balance. I kind of went over those are kind of our personal services. We did increase police overtime by $25,000. One of the things we always touch about is the safety of our city. I can tell you the police department does a fantastic job. They've really been doing a fantastic job over the last year, and the amount of work that they're doing on the street to make us safe has been phenomenal. And so an additional $25,000 is being allocated to that. We have last year of the contract for the police department is in this budget. And I've talked about the adding the employees there. So that's what your increase is. On the capital outlay, and that's the capital improvement plan. And I'm going to try to say this so everybody gets it. Last year we spent $1.4 million, and we get to what we take out of the general fund. Brian, myself, we go through revenues and expenses, and we back into the number that I can use out of the general fund. The year before, we could use 1.4 million. This year, it's 910,000. Majority of that money, lion's share of it, does go to the police department for replacement of cars, vests, shields, radios, SWAT equipment, and those type of things. We also have some closed-circuit television that we have throughout the city. We're upgrading those for better seeing. 2 years ago, we had $4 million in the budget, so it has come down a little bit, but primarily because we have finished the projects we started, and a lot of them are one-time events. And I jotted down the seawall. We just finished on 213. The locker room over in the high school. We finished up a lot of roadways last year. Now, that was $600,000 of that money. We pushed off a few roads because we were doing something in the road. So instead of fixing a road and then coming back, ripping it up, that's why you see that number kind of come down significantly. This year, you're going to see 183rd Street, a little bit of 199th Street. These are areas where we were planning on doing something, I'm not doing it anymore because the county is going to come back and resurface those roads because they were the ones ripping it up. So we're saving money in doing that. Contractual services. We take landscaping very, very seriously. Our CAPS program, our CAPS contract is AC maintenance, our shuttle buses, our legal services. So you're going to see an increase of about 5% this year, or $296,000 and change. The one service that we really, we've added and we're evaluating is freebie, and I know it's on our agenda in the workshop. We'll talk about it a little later. So that's where you see the increase from, was adding the freebie service. Other charges, which basically are utility charges, you'll see that that's been increased $256,000. I don't want anybody to think we're using more water or we're using more electric. Basically, we've always taken, how would you say, a very optimistic view on water. We kind of at the mercy of the rain and the clouds. So this is based on more actual numbers. So going forward, we will budget correctly, or not hope it rains a lot and we spend less on the water side. We balance it out at the end of the year anyway, but this way it keeps it more realistic. The last, kind of coming to the end, we have the police education fund. We have $5,500 to that. Those are monies we get from we get a couple of dollars from every ticket that's written in Aventura, and it goes for police education and things like that. Our transportation street fund, those are used for obviously street maintenance and transportation enhancements, such as a lot of our bus shelters. We're still installing LED lighting and such. We have our 9/11 fund. It's not the date, but it's the 9/11 system, and that is also money we get from communication charges. We use that money to upgrade our 9/11 system, which is an ongoing process up there. Capital projects, that is a fund that got a lot of money from impact fees, and we carry that. Each year we pull out about $80,000 to $90,000, and it augments the areas for the police department where we're buying equipment. So it's just another place where we help fund equipment and what we're doing with the police department. Last two things for me is the water fund, and this is very near and dear to my heart. This is heavy-duty infrastructure, and as I like to say, we're kind of coming down the home stretch. I know down on 213th and Yacht Club, we're going to be doing a major new storm drain system improvement there. We're also going to be installing a lot of curbing, which you see around Country Club. We budgeted $250,000. This year we were able, through the state, I don't know if the Senate is still here, but $470,000 of grant funding that really will push what we're doing way ahead of schedule. So we are going to get most of the Country Club done, if not all, 190th Street and also Aventura Boulevard. If you know, I aggressively go after grants. I mean, I don't like, it would be really easy to say we're too rich to apply, but honestly, we're at the home stretch right now for my pickleball court on South Founders. We're in the final phase. It's $800,000 grant, and we're really in it. So I know by the amount of extra information they're requesting from me, same as we got from Waterways, which we have a $400,000 grant that, we will be applying to anything we do on that field. So it's all good stuff. You have to be aggressive, and any dollar that I can get, like I'm reapplying for $1 million for seawall construction. It's a non-matching grant. We got turned down. It's open again now. I'm applying for it, just like I'm applying for again. We're already getting ready for next legislative session up in Tallahassee. So, any dollar we can save there, we save it on, if we get the money from the feds, it would be good to, do that the best we can. So, that's really the overview. If you have any questions, please, I'm all ears. Actually, Mayor, just so you know, I think we're asking for an approval of the millage rate. Am I right? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Right, the budget part first, item A.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
C through J and A.
We will rewrite this next year.
Okay, so all I'm asking for now is the motion so that we can discuss it. I'm not asking for a vote. Okay? So, motion made by Commissioner Evans, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. Okay. I'm going to ask if any members of the commission have any comments or statements about the budget. And I will start with Commissioner Narotsky. I will go in this direction, and then we'll get to the two people, the two commissioners.
I'll be very quick. It's amazing, almost all of it, and I sat with the manager and with the assistant manager, so I appreciate it. The only thing I will gripe on, as I do every year, it's my annual gripe, I don't believe in just raising the 2% for wages automatically. I believe everything should be based upon merit and individual evaluation. I don't believe in paying people just to show up for work. I've made that point in private to both Ron and with Brian, and that's just my personal philosophy. But that's the one small gripe. Everything else, I really commend the hard work, and I appreciate it so much, and I will enthusiastically support the budget. Thank you.
I just want to congratulate you both very much on this budget. These are not easy times, and you've done a tremendous job. We're keeping all the good things that the City of Excellence has, and you've been conservative. We've had to be. We're probably a little less conservative in our property values going down. I think we've done a little bit better than the norm, and I really want to thank you for balancing the budget and keeping the millage rate the same. Thank you.
So first of all, I want to thank, everyone who works on the budget, because you guys do a terrific job. It's not simple, but you do a great job. I had a couple of questions. One of them is item Roman numeral XI 11, and it's just a question, and it's talking about the personnel allocation summary. And you don't have to check it because it's not going to really matter for what I'm about to say. I know that many people communicate by email up and back, and that's their modus operandi because that seems to work best. But there are many people also, especially in our city, we have people of all different ages who actually pick up the phone and try to call. And the one comment I get consistently from anyone who tries to call the city is there is no human being who answers the phone. So what happens is if you push enough buttons, you eventually get to some department, but it's the wrong department, and they connect you to another department, and you never get to where you need to be. And even in the departments, they don't seem to always answer the phone. I am going to respectfully ask if you can find money in the budget to have a human being who answers the phone and says, "Good morning, this is the City of Aventura." Or good afternoon also, because we want them there all day.
Didn't we used to?
Yes, we used to.
My understanding is that we used to have that position, and then there was some attrition, and we chose not to fill it as a cost-saving measure. I would continue to support that and respectfully disagree about finding that new position.
Mayor?
I see it, Denise. I'm going to deviate from my normal conservative philosophy and say that even when I call the city, I do not call any number of anyone in the city other than the city manager's cell phone or the city clerk's cell phone, because it is absolutely impossible to get a human being. And again, if we can find a voice activation system that is more responsive and more personal, I am fine with that. But I think the cost might be de minimis, and I would love you also to look at it. You know, I think we're all pretty tired of being hit this button, talk to this person. It's just not effective for me. But that doesn't mean that it changes my vote on your budget. It's just
Me
right.
too.
It's just
Me too.
a recommendation for you to look at it. Commissioner Landman.
Yes, I was going to say and agree with you. Customer service is key. We want someone to answer the phone. We want someone to show that smile through the phone. So I agree with that.
Okay. I'm looking around. Dr. Marks, other questions? You're on.
Oh, no, I talked to Ron about the 4,000 little yellow tabs that I have.
Like I did?
Yeah, so
4,000.
I've got most of the answers. My only other,
I will work on
my
the,
only other request was in discussing Parks and Recreation in terms of, we have an equal number of management positions and an equal number of, worker, in the field kind of guys, whatever you want to call them, although Ron told me that managers go in the field. But what I'm saying, I had asked for just a little bit of an increase in the Parks Department. And again, and it's based on something, actually, Denise, I totally support what you said, and it's actually based on the fact that and this will come up in the workshop, I just think that we need to be more customer friendly and more concerned about the feelings of our customers, because we do a phenomenal job with bricks and mortar. Anything physical plant, we are phenomenal. But I would love to see us expand the human part of what we're doing, which we'll talk about in the workshop. So thank you. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, Commissioner Naraki.
Again, if it's inappropriate, I want everyone to, because I already spoke, but I object to any new, we're not, this is the slow creep of we're adding employees, we're adding costs. These are not basic government functions. I just want it to be reflected that I object to any of these increases.
Solely noted on the record. Okay. I want to say that, and I would like you to take this for next year, not for this budget. I would love to see a budget that reflects a reduction or a status quo. Okay? I think the idea that every year, every budget, and it's across the board, has to go up. I've made a very careful analysis of our salary schedule. I'm going to ask that you do some kind of compensation study, because I think our salaries are extremely generous. I will also say to you, I am the proudest mayor in Dade County with the salaries that our police officers make. We put our money where our mouth is when we say we support police. I would suggest to all commissioners to avail yourself of the information that's here just by making a phone call. I see in your budget you had a 2% raise and a 3% bonus. This is the 6th year I'm saying the same thing, and it kind of aligns with what Commissioner Narotsky said. We hire you and give you a great salary to do your job. Your job description should not be your performance indicators. It doesn't work that way in private business, and it shouldn't work that way in government. Bonuses should be awarded based on something outside of your job description. And I will give everybody an example, because I had this conversation with the city manager, and it's easier for me just to use him. In all of the city managers in all of Dade County, an extra responsibility that our city manager assumes is the running of 2 schools. That's not a normal city manager function. I'm being very clear. That is what I'm talking about, stepping out of your job description. Because what we see in this document is everybody just reports what it says that their job is. So, I'm not going to say anything about the 2%. You know that I think the only time served counts is in prison, and that raises ought to go on merit, new innovations, proactive thinking, getting out ahead of the curve, identifying where the flooding is before 40 residents call it. So I'm going to say I'm making it as recommendations, but next year I want to see it. So I'm not asking for any changes here, but it really is a philosophical change. And I think we need to, it'll take some time to develop the indicators for performance. And again, I'm not saying change it for, I'm just talking about the current people that are eligible for bonuses. Okay, which I know isn't your entire personnel. Okay.
Mayor, I have a comment.
I'm going in order. So Commissioner
sorry.
Friedland, and then I'm going. Yeah, what I said, this is what I said in the beginning, and then I'll go back.
So I just want to say, I think it's wonderful that we have a balanced budget and tremendous effort you can see was put into this. Really, really appreciate it. I agree with what the mayor said. We are increasing the salaries and taking into consideration inflation because we were increasing it. And then a bonus on top of that, which is automatic without an evaluation, is actually not in the business world. That's not how things are done. So I think I definitely believe in bonusing people and recognizing important work. I just think we do need some evaluation skills. So going forward.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
I was going to say, not everybody gets a bonus in Aventura. I don't want you to. I don't want anybody to think that that is automatic.
It's a select group. That's why I said I am only talking about that group that currently qualify, but it shouldn't be a given. I'm asking for real performance metrics that don't align with job descriptions. Okay, Commissioner Shelley.
Wait, I just had one more thing I just wanted to add, and the other thing that I just want to add is, I think it is amazing that we have the ability to balance a budget without ever increasing taxes and remaining the lowest taxes in South Florida. And I want our public to know that, because I don't think our residents all know that out there. I mean, I hear from people, for example, my children don't go to the charter school because I didn't get in, but I still pay taxes and I pay high taxes. But really, they pay the lowest taxes in Dade County, and they don't know that. So I think that we've done another year of incredible work of keeping the taxes lowest. We need to let our residents know that. I think it's recognition of what you guys have done, and you deserve that recognition, and they should all know that. So we need to get that out there, that you have maintained the lowest taxes in South Florida again.
It definitely helps development, I know that.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yeah, Ron, you glossed over something, and I think it's one of the more important points that you made in your budget, but you didn't quantify it. And I think we should all know, you talked about this budget not anticipating any additional income, and yet we are anticipating additional income. It's just not reflected when the budget was put together. That being said, which is an amazing budget, could you tell us how much we are anticipating if all goes well? Because I think we should all know that's a hell of a lot of money that we could be putting into the coffers, whether it goes in reserve or whatever. So could you give a little bit more quantification to those amounts and how they would be placed if we to receive them this year?
Commissioner Shelley is talking about the American Rescue Act. Originally, we had gotten contacted from different agencies that it was approximately going to be $15 million. It's been revised upward to a little more than $18 million. It was supposed to come in two different, half this year, half next year. Originally, the description of these funds to what they could be used for was it was easy to understand. It was limited, but it was definitely easy to understand. That has certainly changed. I think we've gotten a lot of information from the government on how this money can be used. And if it's about this, probably if you took all your paperwork that you have in front of you today and doubled it, that's kind of what we're looking at. We will take those monies and segregate them probably in a special fund, and we will make sure that whatever we do spend it on, we're allowed to spend it on, because I can guarantee you there will be an audit, and we don't want to be in a position where we spent, a couple of $1 million on something and said, oh, that doesn't really qualify. So we have a few things. One of the things it can be used for is calculating if there were any loss in revenue from pre-COVID to this point. And we will be doing those calculations, so that's a legitimate use. There's certain things you can do for infrastructure help. Parks is another area that's pretty wide open, which we'll be, utilizing it, but it's still a lot, even if you use that, what we're thinking about is still a lot of money, so I'm sure we'll think of something, positive to use.
All right, so let me make,
And that's why I wanted the commission to realize that in addition to this budget, which is balanced, we conceivably could have an additional windfall of money coming in for projects, et cetera, that next year might offset and take away the need to put those items into the budget next year, which could again help us in terms of what our balanced budget would look like and possibly reduce some of the budget expenses that we have based on the reality that we actually receive these funds at some point. Is that correct?
So I'm going to respectfully ask the city manager and the chief financial officer, prior to deciding about the almost $19 million, that we have a workshop and the commission have the ability to have input into what their priorities are, and we don't wait till we get it already printed out. I had a short conversation with the chief financial officer, who was absolutely amenable to doing this, and I think by the time, obviously in the fall, and by then we should have the technical assistance papers and all of the documentation we know of when we have to spend the dollars by, what they can be used for, and again, other things are bonuses. So, as the city manager said before, he put $25,000 in for police overtime. Police overtime is one of the things so far, it may change, that you could charge back. It's a work in process, but I think we would all like to be included in the planning and not in the ending. And I'm seeing a nod from Commissioner Shelley and a nod from Commissioner Lamb.
And actually, Mayor, that's exactly what I was going to get to at my next point, that I think we should be not only involved with, as long as it's in compliance with the rules of the money, in decision-making of it, but as important as that is, I'd like to have that workshop also include, if we were to receive this kind of monies, how it could positively affect our budget going forward next year with this influx of money that's coming in probably the latter part of this year. Because I believe there's going to be substantial savings to our budget next year with this influx. And I'd like to have a say as a commission, or we all should have a say in not only the use of the proceeds, but the effect on our budget next year.
Yes, we could do that. And I kind of remember we had this topic discussed kind of at a workshop months ago. And I have written down some of your suggestions.
We were supposed to, but I don't think we ever had it.
No, I think we kind of had it in a very informal manner.
Yeah.
But, the world has changed. And we're going to need new kinds of technologies for for posting the reports, digging deep into conduct, into all kinds of things. It's a one-time. It's not recurring, so nothing should be used that is a recurring expense because the money won't be here. But I'm hopeful that they will keep it flexible dollars. I'm hopeful, and that at the last minute they don't hijack it. So I think that I have to give our city manager kudos, because most city managers would already have plans for expending it, but he's learned through the years that often it doesn't quite materialize. So I appreciate your diligence and I appreciate your conservative attitude. Commissioner Evans.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I heard it right. When we get this money, it will be in two different installments over 2 years.
That's as it's been explained to me.
That's where it's at the moment.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
The state, I believe the state has the money. So.
Yep. No, I believe we're going to get it, but one never knows. Anyone else want to have any questions about the budget? I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone in the public wish to address it? Okay, then I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item is 2B. It's a motion to adopt the resolution to establish the tentative millage rate. I'm going to ask the city attorney to please read it. This is a very important item.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, establishing a proposed millage rate for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, providing for the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and tentative budget, and providing for an effective date.
Can I have a motion for approval of the resolution made by Commissioner Evans, seconded by Commissioner Landman? I'm going to request the city manager to review the item.
On the millage rate, yes, we're just setting the millage rate.
Right. It's 2B, page 2 of 15.
Yes,
2 of 5.
the resolution is, as we said, 1.7261. That'll be the millage that'll be submitted down to the county. A lot of cities submit a higher millage rate because you can always go backwards. When you set a low rate, you can't go up.
Good.
We are very consistent in setting the rate what it is, and that's what it is, so.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission wish to address this other than to give kudos to our finance department for being able to maintain this for 27 years of the city's existence? Anyone? Okay. Anyone from the public wish to address this item? Then I'm going to close it for public comment, and I'm going to ask the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item, thank you so much. The next item is item number 3, and it's a resolution. I'm going to ask the city attorney to please read said resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, awarding a contract for the city's group health insurance program to Unitedhealthcare for its Choice Plus BWRJ with RX124X and V1458 for health and vision insurance, and select Aetna for the Employee Assistance Program, EAP, as specified in the Request for Proposals, RFP, authorizing the city manager on behalf of said city to execute associated contracts, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this resolution, and providing for an effective date.
Can I please have a motion for approval of this resolution made by Commissioner Evans, seconded by Commissioner Friedland? I'm going to request the city manager to review this very great item.
Okay, as you know, we do budget for our health care, and we put in for an increase. However, Aetna, who we've had over the last, I believe, 2 years, really hit us with a very high premium increase. We went out to bid. Unitedhealthcare, which serviced the city for many, many years, wanted us back. Their proposal was much lower than Aetna, and we're recommending that we go back to Unitedhealthcare. This is a normal course of business. All the services, all the drug coverage and everything remains exactly the same, and the only thing is the city saves some money on the premium payments.
I know that we have some representatives.
Yes.
Do you want to introduce them?
Yeah. If you want, you can.
Oh my God, they've been sitting here the whole time.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruth Tickle, and I'm with the Rhodes Insurance Group. Thank you so much for having us here. We're very grateful with United, the relationship that we have with United. I think many of your employees are going to be happy with the decision. I personally handle most of the, all of the servicing of the employees. And in the past, we did hear some rumbling regarding Aetna. So I think this is going to be a positive change for the employees and for the city. And
good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Godoy, and I'm a Unitedhealthcare account executive. It's truly my pleasure to be here and to serve you all. And we definitely look forward to winning or earning your business back.
And is UNH going to be providing Pelotons as reported in the news.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, wait a minute, this isn't a joke. This is not a joke.
No, it's not.
Could you please explain it? Because I think it's an amazing idea that UNH has, so please tell us about it.
Absolutely. So just released yesterday, Unitedhealthcare, effective September 1st, has partnered with Peloton. We're going to be providing millions of our members with access to free subscription through Peloton. It's going to assist members and their families to get better in shape through the access of these services. And we're also going to be providing members with a $500 discount to the Peloton bike. So as we continue this journey in helping people live healthier lives, we are now taking another step to providing additional access to members in wellness programs.
And kudos to you for doing it, and I just would like the city manager to just give us the dollar amount that we have saved.
About $248,000.
248,000.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I forgot I have my mask on.
That's what we like to hear. Programs that we're able to save money on. I want to thank you, Brian, for all your negotiation skills, and I want to thank you, Ron, for your oversight. Any commissioners want to speak on the item? Dr. Marks.
Yeah. So you're the account executive for UnitedHealthcare?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I've negotiated insurance for my business for many, many, many years. And unfortunately, what often happens is to get the account back, the amount is lower. First year, your amount of premium is lower, and then it rises up the same way that 2 years ago, we had our city manager very proud about the fact that we were saving so much money from moving away from UnitedHealthcare. So I'm going to ask you to work with the city and not do this game that insurance companies play, which is raise it. Once we've got you, we're just going to raise it. You're not going to notice that we're raising it, or you're not going to bother to change. I'm going to ask you to conscientiously work with us so that we come up with a fair amount, because what happens every time you change, it's the employee that becomes the uncomfortable person. They have to start with new doctors or new, drugstores, or whatever the case may be. So I'm just asking publicly and upfront that you manage this account and keep us with a rate that is workable instead of doing the game that unfortunately insurance companies play. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just wanted to add that we do have a rate cap for the second year renewal as well. So we'll make sure that happens, to stay below that. Thank you.
Are there any commissioners that have any questions about this item? Any other commissioners? I've lost Bob's picture.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
I know you're there, but.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
You're back.
I hit the wrong
You're
button.
back. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I knew you were there. We just couldn't see you.
Oh, sorry.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address this issue? Seeing as there none, who? Denise, is your hand up? No. Okay. Okay. Then, with that said, if no one wants to speak to it any further, I'm going to ask the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
Yes.
Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much, and kudos for bringing this contract in. The next item, because we've already done 4, is we're skipping right to item number 5, which is an ordinance on second reading. I'm going to request the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Aventura, Florida, amending Article 7, Code of Ethics of Chapter 2, Administration of the City Code to implement the recent amendment of City Charter Section 7.03B, providing for enhanced ethics provisions, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in code, and providing for an effective date.
Can I have a motion for approval made by Commissioner Evans, seconded by Commissioner Narotsky? I'm going to request the city manager to review it, but in actuality, this is just codifying what was passed in the election, in the charter election, impacting our charter. And I'm trying to save time as the day is getting longer. Do any commissioners wish to talk to this? Okay, I'm going to open it for public comment. Does anyone wish to talk? I'm closing it for public comment, and I'm asking the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman.
Okay, that brings us to item 6, resolution. I'm going to request the city attorney to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, urging President Joseph R. Biden Jr. and the Biden administration to condemn the Cuban government's handling of the pro-democracy protests and support the Cuban people in their struggle for freedom and basic needs, expressing support for the Cuban people's struggle for democracy and basic needs, and denouncing the Cuban dictatorship's violence against the Cuban people, providing for transmittal and providing for an effective date.
I'm going to ask for a motion for approval of the resolution made by Commissioner Friedland, seconded by Vice Mayor Dr. Linda Marks. Before the city manager reviews it, this was a request given to me by Senator Rene Garcia. He's currently a county commissioner. He was a state representative and a state senator. One of the best friends we have on the commission, and when he was in Tallahassee, this is not a partisan issue. Okay, this is about democracy, but just for the record and being clear, Senator Garcia is a Republican, and I'm going to leave it like that and see if any other commissioners would like to address this. It's supporting his resolution. Commissioner Friedland?
Non-party related, I think this is a wonderful thing, and I'm super proud of our city for supporting it. And I want our residents to know that we've made this resolution. I hope we will get that out so everybody knows that the city of Aventura is supporting the people. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see hands above. Is there anyone in our audience, in the public, that wishes to address this item? Seeing as there are none, I'm going to ask the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedland?
Yes.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dr. Marks?
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, can I please have a motion to adjourn the workshop? Made by Commissioner Narotsky, seconded by Vice Mayor Dr. Linda Marks. Anybody opposed to the adjournment of the commission meeting? This meeting is officially adjourned. Do we need to take a 5-minute break? Can we what?
I need a break too.